Happy Hanukkah. Yes, it's the first day of Hanukkah, first full day of Hanukkah, and it goes through next Monday. So for those of you celebrating, I wish you happiness. And I'm really excited because it's going along with Christmas, which hopefully none of us are panicking too much, which is in 2 days. And so it's coinciding during the Christmas season, and on Christmas Day I get to celebrate both holidays. So that gives us a little extra reasons to be merry. I'm your host, Diane Gatsis Havinga, and every year about this time we take a moment to kind of look back over the past year and kind of think about some of the Village in Motions that we have done. It's really hard to pick favorites. I'm not calling these favorites per se, but they're ones that we have remembered and have talked about throughout the year. So we're going to get started. I am going to introduce the first one, and this is something that is really kind of dear and close to me. It's about organ donation. And we had 2 people. One you know, Elka Martin, who is a resident and also a volunteer host here on GSV-TV. She had donated her kidney. And then we had a friend of ours who has come on Village in Motion over the years, Ed Lintz. He had received a heart. So we got together to celebrate and mark that National Donors Month. So from April, let's look at this particular program.
Hopefully we'll get into an interesting conversation. Good morning, Ed.
Well, hi. Thank you, Alka. Appreciate your asking me to be here today.
Sure. And I understand you have quite a history already as an organ recipient. How long ago did that happen?
Well, I received a heart at Fairfax Nova Hospital on the 9th of September in 1994. So this year will be our 25th anniversary.
Yes.
And I say our because it's really a family thing in the sense that I certainly would not have been able to make it through the ordeal that I had without the support of my family and friends. Because
and
I
was that the ordeal before? The
ordeal before
operation?
and after. As you well know, the waiting list to receive an organ continues to grow because of the shortage we have of donors. And one of the things we certainly hope today is that those listening will not only consider for themselves, but for their family members and friends to sign up at least to become potential donors.
Right, right.
Because, I mean, you well know because you were a donor yourself.
True. That's right.
How long ago was that for you?
That was 18 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 2001. I didn't really intend to be a donor. I mean, it's not like it was a long plan that I had worked on and thought about. It came about in an interesting way, unexpected to me. I had a small business at the time, and I don't know what you did when you were working. When you have a small business, you have to constantly market yourself.
Of course.
And so I was part of various networking groups, and I met a woman who had her own small business, and that was massage and Reiki and sacrocranial something or other. And, you know, we got along, we chatted, and then she told me that she was in need of a kidney donor because she had already been on dialysis for 5-6 years. And
which is very difficult.
Yes. Yeah, it's a long waiting list.
It's a very difficult thing, particularly for kidneys.
Right. And you get weaker and weaker over the years. And so I heard that, okay, I went home. And then what happened, what I think of now, is the spiritual element that I had never considered before. And that is that I heard this small voice, you know, they talk about the small, still voice of God, that kept coming to me and saying, well, why don't you donate? And I poo-pooed it for a while and pushed it aside. I had always focused on being healthy and taking care of myself. Now, why would I subject myself to a difficult and long operation and be in the hospital if I didn't need to?
It's certainly no free lunch to do this.
No, it's not.
Yes.
And after a while, though, that voice kept coming back. And after a while, I thought, well, I guess I have to learn about it at least.
Yes.
You know, maybe just to have better ammunition to say no. But the more I learned, and the woman who ended up being my recipient was in a trial at NIH, and you get exceedingly good care there, I found out.
Now, let me interrupt for a second. Where did you actually receive the operation that removed?
At NIH.
At NIH.
In Bethesda. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yes, and so once I learned that you can live very well with one kidney. And
you seem to be doing well.
Yeah, yeah. Most of the time I don't think about it.
Right, right.
Know, they told me I probably shouldn't play rugby and probably shouldn't ride a motorbike. Well, you know, those two things were easy to avoid in my life. I've never.
I picture you as a rugby player.
Just because you know I'm German, I know.
Right.
No, but so I went into that process with some hesitation and a lot of learning. And of course, a lot of checkups. I mean, you know how many exams you go through.
Right.
Probably at both ends, right?
Oh, yes.
And then, did you meet your donor?
Well,
probably not.
Of course not, because
with the
she was
heart,
deceased.
it's different.
Yes, and I. A little background on my situation. I was in perfect health, and I went for a physical in 1991. And all of a sudden, halfway during the physical, the mood of my physician suddenly changed. And I said, "What's wrong, Robin?" And she said, "Well, the T wave on your echocardiogram is inverted." And I said, "So what?"
What does that mean?
That's exactly. I said, "I just ran a marathon. I feel great."
Really?
And
how old were you at the time?
Well, it was about when I was diagnosed, I was like 47.
Okay.
Something like that.
So what was this diagnosis?
Well, anyway, there was no diagnosis. She just said the T wave was inverted. I said, "So what?" So she said, "Well, you need to see a cardiologist." And I said, "Yeah, right." You know. So I went home, but she called up my wife, who was a nurse, and who was also one of her patients. And so between the two of them, they twisted my arm. I saw a cardiologist, went through a series of tests. Everything was pretty much normal. Finally, they kept doing more and more invasive tests, including one where they go up through your groin and do a heart catheterization, and which I assume several of the folks here have probably gone through or know people that gone through.
Right.
And anyway, almost as an afterthought, they took 5 tissue samples out of my heart. And a couple weeks later, they called me back and said, "We need to see you and your wife." The doctor called me in. I remember it like it was yesterday. We're sitting at his office, and he says, "You have cardiac sarcoidosis. We don't know what causes it. There's no known cure, and it's fatal."
And what does it mean?
That's the name of the disease, cardiac sarcoidosis. He said, you have 2 years to live. I said, I'm in perfect health.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that this disease it's normally in people's lungs. It normally affects black women in the South. I looked in the mirror and said, what have my parents not told me? Mm-hmm. So at any rate, what it does, when it's in your heart, it causes the electrical signal from the top of the heart to have trouble reaching the bottom of the heart. And so auxiliary paths are set up, and it causes the heart to go into rapid beating, fibrillation. Mm-hmm. And so...
and can't find its regular rhythm.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I started developing the symptoms about 3 months later, and then I ended up having tests done to try to do antiarrhythmic drugs on me. This was all over at Fairfax and Nova Hospital. None of them worked. One even made me worse, lidocaine. But they did find...
When you said the symptoms started 3 months later, what were they?
The rapid heartbeat.
So then you could feel it.
Yes, and also by that time I was carrying a box with me such that if I felt this rhythm, I should put it over my heart and literally hit like a tape recorder with a record button. Remember, we're talking back in the 1990s.
Yeah.
And then when it's over, then you literally call an 800 number in New York, And the guy answers the phone. I say, I think I got a problem. He says, well, put the phone or put the phone up next to the recorder. Yeah, and then he said, yeah, you need to talk to your doctor. So at any rate, that's what the symptoms were. And so this happened the first time when I was out in the Grand Canyon. But at any rate, I ended up the following February. That was in '94. The following February, I was playing racquetball up at South Run, and I was on a drug called amiodarone, which was given to me. It was the only drug which worked, but it had bad side effects, real bad side effects. At any rate, I was playing racquetball, and I went into an arrhythmia, and I almost died. I was 911 to the hospital. Almost died on my way to the hospital. And consequently...
Pretty scary, huh?
Well, yeah, because on the way to the hospital, I'm conscious.
Yeah.
And the EMT...
So that was Ed Lentz, who was a heart transplant recipient, and our own Elka Martin, who was a kidney donor. And if you'd like to see the entire Village in Motion, you can go on our YouTube channel, Greenspring Channel 6, and it's from April 12th of this year. It's really a wonderful program, and I'm really excited because I already have our program for the National Donor Month, which is, I think, March. We're going to have someone who just got 2 lungs replaced. How about that? And I met him, and it was like 2 weeks ago. He had been released from the hospital, and I was like, if I didn't know that he had 2 new lungs, wow. So anyway, more to come. Before Avon Price left us, he had mentioned the segment that he would most want to be remembered for this year was something that I'm sure all of you will not be surprised about. So I'm not even going to tell you what the topic is. But for some weird coincidence, it happened to be, again, in April of 2019. So let's take a look.
Good morning, Greenspring. I am your host, Avon Price, where I love talking about Batman more than Terrance thinks that Captain America can beat Batman, which is a total lie. So I am here today as we celebrate the most well-known character, Batman, aka Bruce Wayne, and how he has been around for 80 years within the comic book world. So I'm going to give some history, I'm going to give some insight as to why I like Batman, and just some facts about him that you may not have even known. So just to start off, we're going to talk about the history of Batman. Batman was created, and his release date was March 1939, but his cover date is May 1939, but we're going to go with the March one just for time's sake. And so Batman was created by Bob Kane, as you can see on the screen. He was created by Bob Kane, and he was drawn with his associate Bill Finger, who assisted in creating a character that was kind of opposite of Superman, because Superman was doing so well within the comic books. And so the next picture is going to show the first comic book issue of Batman when he came out. His cape was literally configured like bat wings, and they did that purposely so it can resemble, obviously, a bat. And so that is pretty much the history of Batman, that he was a character that was supposed to be the opposite of Superman. And I bring that up because a lot of the residents here remember the Adam West, bang, pow, wow, Adam West, Batman. And we're not talking about that Batman. That is the one Batman version I will not mention. But about him is that Batman is actually was written from the beginning to be this brooding, grumpy, character within comic books, and actually his first issue, he actually used a gun and would actually kill people. So he was actually a comic book superhero that was actually violent, to be the contrast between the good old boy Superman. So moving on. Costumes. The reason that costumes is so important for Batman is because he is a human. Batman does not have superpowers like Superman or Wonder Woman or the Flash, so his costume is very important because it carries with him certain utilities and tools that he uses to fight against crime. So let's look at the first picture. The first picture is more of a modern take, but this is how his first uniform looked back in the 1939. And how I know it is one of the first costumes of Batman is because of the iconic purple gloves. If you ever are looking at a comic with Batman, he has the iconic purple gloves, and if you look at the horns, they are more bent outwards than inwards. And so that's how you always know that that storyline is going to be talking about Batman's beginning days in his superhero reign. So as we go through the other pictures, this is the picture that is the canon, or the main comic book story, as you will, the main story within comic book. This is his costume he has now. And this is actually one of my favorite costumes of Batman right now within the modern age, because I love the purple mixing with the gray, and I love the yellow outline along the bat symbol. So we go to the next picture. We'll see another take of Batman just taken throughout the years. And if you can see, this one is a little bit more rugged in the sense of how he has shorter bat ears than normal. This is from the time of Batman Hush, which we'll get to next. So as we just continue to go through the photos, we'll see just multiple different pictures of Batman throughout the years that are very iconic within the story. And so this is Christian Bale's Batman Begins. And if you have not seen that movie, I totally recommend you seeing it. And this is one of my favorite takes of Batman within the media of movies and cinematography, because of it is a straightforward black costume, and it brings such a different look to Batman, because usually he has a contrasting color of like a standing out color of yellow or white or even gray, but this one is just straight black, which adds to his mysteriousness and his creature of the night theme. So the next picture is an armor suit. Batman is well known with his armor that he uses to fight in battle. So he fights metahumans, even gods, and here it is, this one human who is fighting gods, and so he builds and uses his technology to fight against many gods, and this is just one example of one of the armors that he uses. So let's go to the next photo. And this is another Elseworld. In comic books, there's never just one storyline. They have multiple random storylines, and this is just another costume that was my favorite of Batman. The red and the black, I just think that's just a wonderful contrast. And as you can see, his utility belt, that stands out to me mostly because he doesn't have a center point like most of them have in the middle of his symbol. The next photo, and this is a popular armor used of Batman, because this is actually not the Bruce Wayne Batman. This is somebody else who is filling in for Batman during the time that he broke his back. So as you can see, those are different costumes of Batman throughout the years. And so I'm just going to touch on different parts of Batman and talk about why I love him and why he's just awesome. And so the main story of Batman and his identity is that Batman, his real life story is that he's Bruce Wayne. And when he was 9 years old, he witnessed the murder of his parents in an alley. He saw his parents get shot in the alley and get murdered. And from that day on, he vowed that about fighting against crime. And so from there, he trained in several martial arts. He learned judo, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing, karate, and he became not just skilled at it, he became the master of every fighting style that's out there. So that is the basic story of Batman, that he used his wealth, his skill, his knowledge. He has 12 master's degrees. He's just full of knowledge, and he uses all that to pledge his war against crime. Now, what I love about the comic book world is that they are willing to try and to do something new with the main Batman character. So Batman is not always Bruce Wayne. They have side stories where it's actually another person under that mask. And so we're going to talk about some of the alternative Batman that's been there throughout history. So we have some photos showing the different alternative Batmans that are out there. Now this one is still Bruce Wayne, but this is Bruce Wayne in his 60s. So Greenspring residents, it's not too late for you to maybe be Batman out there. So Batman is in his 60s and he is coming out of retirement and to fight against crime. And this Batman version is brutal. He is willing to kill, and he breaks bones and takes names. So there's another photo of Batman. So this is the iconic Frank Miller, The Dark Knight Returns Batman. That is probably one of my favorite Elseworld stories of Batman, of just that he comes back in his 60s and he's still fit and he still rules Gotham City. So the next one is Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson Batman is coming from when Batman died. Bruce Wayne Batman died. And so his counterpart, or his protege, Dick Grayson, who was the first Robin, participates in a war against all the other allies of Batman to fight for the Battle of the Cow. That's another famous story of the Batman universe. And so this Batman is Terry McGinnis. And he is from the Batman of the future. And Terry McGinnis is actually a punk kid that was actually a street criminal that gets mixed in with Bruce Wayne. And so he actually becomes Batman after he witnesses his own father die. And so he hooks up with Bruce Wayne and becomes the new Batman. And I have another photo of this Batman. And he's named Batman Beyond. And fun fact about this character of Batman, it first came out as a TV show, and then because fans loved him so much, they made him an actual comic book, and now he's within the comic book world. And what I love about this costume is that it fully covers his face, and then he has the red eyes. It's just totally a creature of the night, and no longer does he have the cape. He has actual retractable wings and fire jet shoes that he can actually fly in the middle of the night. And then my next photo is Thomas Wayne Batman. So this Batman comes from an alternate universe of when Flash goes back to reverse time and he messes up time, and where instead of Bruce Wayne's parents being killed in the alley, Bruce Wayne dies in the alley, and so his parents are the ones who are left alive. His mother becomes the Joker, and this Batman is his father, Thomas Wayne. This is so much information out there, but trust me, I'm an expert at this. And so what I love about this Batman is that this Batman uses guns, he will kill, and that he is totally brutal. So he is iconic with the red circle and the red eyes and the extra horns that are on his cape. So if you see that version of Batman, you know it's going to be a hard, bloody, crueling story. So those are the alternate versions of Batman, and there are many other versions of Batman. There's Batman 3000, and then there's Batman when it's his other son, Damian Wayne. There's all these other Batmans, but there's not enough time for me to go into it. So I do have some clips for you to witness some of the greatness of these.
That was Avon talking about one of his favorite topics, which was Batman. I gotta say, I learned a lot about DC Comics and about Batman working with Avon, and we're gonna miss him. Moving on, today, while I'm a new employee here, new on the staff here, I've had the opportunity to learn about different things in the community, things like the wood shop. And coming up next, a video about the treasure chest, which I never got to see the old treasure chest, so I only witnessed it when it reopened. And it was a fun time to just to see all the things that people do down there and all the places and all the people and products that come through there. I've done a bit of shopping there, and we made a little video about some shopping when they reopened. Hope you enjoy it.
Good morning, Greenspring. Today is Thursday, November 21. I'm Elke Martin, your host, and as you just saw, we're all very happy the treasure chest is back open again. I'm dressed for the occasion with my best treasure chest scarf, and with me as guests today are the two ladies who organize it all these days. Carla Harding, good morning, Carla.
Good morning.
And Pam Walkup.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
We're fine.
Great to have you here. We're all excited, and I know you have lots to tell us. The treasure chest is in a new location, but the treasure chest isn't new.
The treasure chest isn't new. In fact, it goes way back to 1999, when it actually was Carla Williams, now Carla Hibbs, Brad's wife, who suggested that there be a treasure chest here at Greenspring. And that was the middle of 1999. And so the first sales were actually held in the town center music room and the town center classroom. And that lasted a short time until they sort of needed a better space. And Madison Green was being built at that time in Neighborhood 1.
Yeah.
And so they established a hallway store, putting a temporary door on, and held sales there.
Really?
Yes, and that was so successful that they requested a more permanent space. And so those sales ran into 2000, and by 2001, the wood shop was outgrowing the space in Park View, and the wood shop was moved to its current location, and the treasure chest moved into the space on the lowest level of Park View. And it stayed there for a very long time. It was run by Evelyn Jackson and Mina Coulter for 9 years,
Yes.
along with many, many volunteers. And in 2014, they retired, and when they did, the store closed down for a few months. It was kind of renovated and came back with Alice Chesno and Mary Lynn Brom, who ran it for 2.5 years, and that's when Pam and I came in. So we actually have a grand opening clip from the current grand opening, but this is actually the third grand opening of various spaces for the treasure chest.
So it's the third grand opening and the 20th anniversary all at the same
I guess
time.
we're just,
kind of.
that's right. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's correct. And it's delightful space. We have air conditioning, we have heat, we have ventilation, we have light, we have space.
And it's wonderful. And for those people who always keep asking, where's the furniture? We have furniture, but it's different. It's mixed all throughout the store now. It's not all in one little room crammed together. So people have to look.
I saw that when I was down there looking for a fork, and the pieces of furniture on which hats and scarves and maybe forks, couldn't find one then, but were displayed. Those pieces were also for sale. That's your furniture store, right?
That's correct.
Usually when you walk in, you think it's part of the setup, but it really is part of what you can take away.
Yes,
right,
it all
everything.
has tags on it.
And everything is for sale. So we have a really nice video that Terrance did of the grand opening, and perhaps we could run that.
Well, let's go there
kinda
right
shows what's
now.
there.
Let's see how that started in the new location. Can we do that?
All right. So if you want to catch the rest of that, it's on YouTube. And of course, the store is open on Fridays. So you can always go down to the treasure chest and see what they have.